Go.
Rabbi Isai, welcome back to Yerushalmi Shabbos. We are holding at Yud Testament Aleph. Now, we were speaking about Mila, which is done late, and whether it's the mitzvah day or night. So we bring a brisa. All people who need to go in the mikveh, go in the mikveh during the day. Zav, Zava, Matzara, Matzaras, Tamei Mace. So their tefillah is day 7, and they don't have to wait till the end of day 7. They can go in the mikveh already beginning of day 7. Right? And the tahara is at night time. Now, but Nida, Sha'av Azmana, and Nida, who's after the 7 days of her Tumah, and the 8th day has come, Teveles, so the others, one second, come again. Chutz min Nida v'yoledes, she'eli Teveles v'alayla. And Nida only goes in the mikveh at night time. So if it's not the 8th night, then it'll be the 9th night. But Nida Sha'av Azmana, sorry, day 7, the Nida has to wait till the end, till night. But Nida Sha'av Azmana, once day 7's passed by, and you're on to day 8, according to this opinion, she can then go in the mikveh whether it's day or night. The minute nowadays, of course, women only go at night. We'll see soon. He darshaned, yeah, once the 7 days have gone past, she can go day or night. They said, even if it's past the 7 days, still it has to be at night. And that's what we do. But basically, if they see it going in the mikveh the day, they'll think it's day 7, and they'll end up going to the mikveh even on the 7th day in the middle of the day, and they won't wait. Right? And the Rav brings the story, there's a raya against this. There was one woman of Rav Seinu, she was going for Nidus to be in the day. Now, no mamu beres manhoisa. Are you going to tell? You have to say maybe it was late. The Zman of Tefillah had already gone, and it was day 8, and therefore they weren't worried that the Tefillah had to be at night. But that's not like the Chachmei Bavel. Right? The Chachmei Bavel. Now, the Bavli, of course, is a Srach Bita. The Gzera is for the daughter, not necessarily the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law. But the daughter will see she's going to the mikveh in the day and think you can go to the mikveh day 7 in the day. Okay? Right, okay. Yeah, some say Chamoisa and Kalasa. Some say it says mother-in-law and sister and daughter-in-law because they hate her. Right? And they want to cause her damage. And they'll say Laz that she went to the mikveh in the day. And therefore they said don't do it, because that's why the Yerushalmi refers to these people, because they hate her. Alright. Nida shener tavla. Right, you picked up a nida and you threw her into the mikveh. Okay? In other words, the case here is she fell from a bridge into a river. But it would also be if someone picked her up and threw her in the river, threw her in the mikveh. Shamai b'shem rav tahor lebesa. She is permitted to her husband. Tvila does not need kavana for be tahor for the husband, providing there's no chatzitza, etc., etc. But tamei letaharos, and she is tamei for eating taharos. For as far as taharos, the machmir, the tefillah needs kavana. Rabbi Lazar Shem Rav Chanina, he said tamei bein lebeis bein taharos. No, it doesn't help for anything. You need kavana for everything. My tama. What's the source that tefillah needs kavana for everything? Are you going to tell me the kubas shadis retire with tzaras on clothes that they're washed? The pasuk says that he's washed again. It says you should wash the garment once. Then obviously, this is a second washing. But it's like the word shadis is telling me we're comparing the second washing, which is shem tefillah, to the first one, which was a washing. So Mari Shaina Ladas, the first one is done with your intention and your will. After Shneah, so the second one, which is the dipping of the garment in the mikveh, has to be Ladas. And how do we know Shaina Ladas? I'm going to the first one to be with your knowledge. The Cohen commands and they wash the area of the tzaras. So it has to be Ladas, it has to be with your knowledge and not just fall into water. So the Minatera, washing a garment for Tahara needs das, therefore all Tevilas need das. Now Rabbi Isai, this next line is typical Yerushalmi. You can have one line and it can mean totally different things, right? This is first shot. And we also find the Rabbanan Mekabel Leibura that they sometimes rushed their wives to go, if they've gone past the 7 days, they've rushed them going to the mikveh as soon as possible so they could get pregnant. Right? If they wait till the night, maybe something will happen and they won't go in the mikveh the following night. So they rush to go after 7 days to go maybe even 8th day in the morning, whatever it is, rather than waiting to the night. That's one shot. Then you've got a totally different shot. Another pshat is with a totally different girsa. It's a mitzvah to bring the candles of Shabbos and light them early, to be zayis and mitzvahs. And also, we've seen Rabbanan, who also were used to do early, they would get together early to discuss whether to add Adar Sheni. Right, Ibu, an expression of Adar Sheni. So one pshat is about women going to the mikveh, and the other pshat is about adding Adar Sheni. And
that's what does it make? The woman aren't the one to Mekadosh in the Western.
What?
The woman aren't the one Mekadosh in the Western.
No, the
husband standing.
No, he's doing the women. No, start again. One pshat is about women going to the mikveh. Another pshat is about Chachamim going to decide Adar Sheni.
So they makdim in order
they get ready early to discuss Adar Sheni. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Right, that's typical Yerushalmi, right? Rav Nachman and Shem Rabbana. Mitzvah lahagdim k'nei lezayis b'mitzvahs. You see, and some bring in Neirus into that wording and then swap it around and talk about Ivo Shana. I don't know.
I got it.
So it's a mitzvah to bring the mikvah into the day to be zayis and mitzvahs. Right. Okay. Now, we've spoken about lighting candles or using Shemen Sreifa, which of course is Truma Tamea. So we're going to talk about getting benefit. Some of this we would have had in Yerushalmi Trumas, Rabbi Say. So we are saying hello again to our Yerushalmi Trumas. Bas Yisrael Shabbat, a Bas Yisrael who's coming to the house of a Cohen, Lahadlik the Kohenes, to light her candle from a woman Kohenes' candle. So Veres is Sapsila B'Shemen, she can dip her wick into Shemen Sreif, into the Truma Tamea of the Kohen, with Madlekes, and she can light her Ner for her way home. Now, even though she's on her own, she's getting benefit from the light, it's permitted. Rav Chodev Shem Rabbi Yanai, when they allowed it, there were wolves around, and therefore they allowed a Zah to dip their wick in the oil of Truma Tamea to provide light for the way home. Now, although it's Sakana, and the Sakana didn't last, but Goblayama based in Obita, based in never got rid of the Heta, so the Heta remained. Once the Takana was set up, even though the reason fell away, they kept it in place. Now, what do we learn? We learned from this din in Masechet Shvius. Let's say someone ploughing his field on Shvius, right? There was a Knas, they said, if you plough your field in Shvius, then you mustn't sow your field the next year. Now, the Gemara says over there, that there was a time where the government was forcing the Jewish people to plough their fields in Shvius, and the Chachamim allowed the ploughing and removed the fine of sowing the next year, right? Because they were forced into it from the government. And Rav Yirmiyah held this heta was never removed, so it stayed later on, when although the government's not in charge anymore. So we're going to compare the takana with ploughing in Shvius, whether it's forbidden to sow the next year, and Shemen Sreifa. So Kamada Tema Tamar, just like we say in our Gemara, with the oil of Truma Tamea, Layam the Beis Din never came or bitter to remove the heta. But the Chayes of Shvius as well, Layam Beis Din a bitter. Beis Din never came back and removed the Gezerah, so the heta remained. But Karesh al Cohen. So this is what the shepherd of the Cohen. He's eating in Israel's house. The clothes of a Kohen, being woven in Israel's house. I raise them madlik al gabov. So the Jew can light, with that light, he can use that light of the shepherd or the clothes of the Kohen, Shemen Sreifa. You don't have to worry he's benefiting for his own purposes, because the Ner is for the Kohen, and Israel can get benefit from it as well. Israel their partners in the shop. Israel can light the candle with the oil of Truma and light it. Go up to the attic. Come down to the shop. To do the needs of the Kohen. But not if they are. So anything for the partnership is fine, but not for anything himself. A Kohen comes to Israel to make a reckoning, and the Israel lit Al-Gabah, because the Kohen was there, Shemen Sreifa. The Kohen's gone away. So we don't say, you have to put it out until it goes out of its own accord. Rav Hanania bar Achbori. Rabbi say Achbori. Now an Achbar is a mouse, right? We're not going to assume that anyone as from as Rav Hanania had a father called Achbori, right? No one would name their child that, right? So what they say is Achbar, there must have been a town called Achbar or something like that. It was the place of Rav Hanania. He was a man of Achbori. Achbori was the name of the town. There is a Yishuv nowadays near Safas with that name. But we're not saying that was the father's name. So he was Yisrael. He used to do work with Rav Chia ben Zipori, who was a Cohen. When he's going, in the end, he's going home at the end of the day. Rav Chia would fill a ner of Shem and Sreifa to provide lights for the way home. But did we not say that Yisrael and Cohen are partners? Yisrael can do it only last Rachel Shel Cohen. He could have for the Cohen's sake. So why is he lighting a candle for the way home? Armin, they said, had he not done this, Rav Hanani would never come to do any work. So in other words, he doesn't want to go home in the dark, so he wouldn't come to do the work at all. So that's why it was a benefit for Rav Chia that he gave him this oil for the way home. So I remember they wanted to say Matzah base when he came home, but you'll have to put out the ner. No, it was the same ner. It burnt all night, and he would use it to get up in the morning. And through that ner, he would get up even before dawn, like we do, Rabbi Side, this time of year, when it was still dark outside. Right, when it's 8:16 in the morning, right? It was still dark outside, so go back to their work in the house of Rav Chia. Without that ner, he couldn't do it. So therefore, it was worthwhile to have the ner burning of Shem and Sreifa. Ada Shamsha, Ada, who was someone who was, they say he looked after the sick. Sha'ala Ravami, asked Ravami the question. Begin to Anad Tzava Pesilta Min Chayla. He says, I dip my wick in the oil of Truma Tzmeah from a Cohen who's sick. Am I allowed to light my wick when I come home? Amalei says, the tiny bit of oil on there is nullified in what's squeezed into the wick. There's no problem. He also passed into the house of old Nehemiah. Rav Ami, Nasa Pasila, he would take from a Bas Cohen a wick which was dipped in the oil of Truma Tzmeah, and he used it for his own purposes. Rav Laya would not take. Does he not agree to what Rav Ami said? It says in the Brisa, Yisrael can dip his wick in the oil of Shem and Sreifa. He says, he was worried about theft. Maybe he gave the wick dipped in Shem and Sreifa, he never got permission for it. And the reason they were worried about it, the worker in the house always used to waste oil of Truma which had Kedusha without asking the das of the Balabais. Gamliel Zuga! Gamliel, maybe he was a barber, I don't know. Sha'ala Rav Asi. I think it was called a Chacham. We mentioned it a few times. He was a barber for his livelihood. Sha'ala Rav Asi. Asked Rav Asi, Mahu, what's the din about a ner which has Truma Tzmeah? Is it permitted for Yisrael lahesiv l'zoich Hashem and chulin or madli to add other chulin oil into it and to light the ner for his own purposes? Right? You're adding a lot of chulin into this tiny bit of Truma Tzmeah. Usually you can't be ma'ariv issa v'hetzer to be mevatel the issa. But here, the issa hadlaka is only rabbinical. Maybe there was no gezerah in such a case. He says, like Tani Rav Hoshea, he says, you don't pour from the keli that tiny bit of oil stuck on the sides. You can just add chulin oil and light. So if there's a lot of oil, Shem and Sreifa, then you shouldn't nullify it. He told me, she's about to light the candles. Erev Shabbos Simcha Shecha. Of Yad on there, she has a candle. V'seich Hashem and Sreifa, and the oil of Truma Tzmeah. You can add a bit of chulin oil and then light it. Can we rely on this? What was Rav Yonis and Achmai? Can you rely on him? He says, Adam Gadol, he was a great man. He knew what was going on. And when Rav Chia Tachman explained it, Rav Chia, the praise of Yonis and Kum Rebbe, in front of Rebbe, as a result, Manisei Hakim, he appointed him, Rav Yonis and Ben Achmai, as a Chacham, like he gave him smicha. He was appointed on the town to Paskin Shilas. Some say he was the Ab based in. Some say he appointed him as a Chacham. He gave him smicha. Okay. We said oil you cannot use for Ner Shabbos. Rab Runa, he said chaylev. If it's chaylev, you're allowed to be matir b'teicha shemen kosher. You can pour in it a tiny bit of kosher oil, or madlik can light with it. Yaitzi Bai, he said, man, what are we talking about? If it's like being heated up and liquefied through heat, if you don't put oil, you can use it because it is machoy, then it burns well. But any fat that you can boil it up and eno korosh, and it's not gelled, as it were, when the ner is burning. It's considered machoy. Basically, you can light the ner Shabbos with it. But if it's like hardened too much, it's like korosh, then I feel it doesn't take shemen. Even if you put oil, you shouldn't use it. Also, Hanania, he gave the following. He said like this: Rabruna b'shem Rab, chelet mahutach. If you have boiled up the fat, the kivei dogim, and the insides of fish which have sort of disintegrated a bit, madlikim bahen, you can use them for neiros. You can light with it, even if you don't put any other oil. He was late coming in front of Rav on a Friday. Amalei, Rav said to him, Harav, so where have you been? Amalei says, I was looking for olive oil to light near Shabbos. Amalei says, didn't you have any of fish you could have lit? Now, some say madlikim beneft, that you can use neft is what, paraffin to light. Some say you can't. What it says you can, Bani Kuma is the black version. The one you can't, Ba'am Chivra is the white version. Do sakada, which is very flammable, and you should keep well away from it. The fire doesn't burn well on the wick, and things go flying all over the place, and they'll catch light on the walls of the house, so you can leave that one out. You should not use oil of Truma Tamea, which needs burning. B'Yom Tov. Yeah, you cannot use Truma Tzreifa on Yom Tov.
Is this Truma Tamea?
Truma Tamea.
Okay.
You can't burn it on Yom Tov.
Yeah.
Your Cohen is usually allowed to get the hana from Truma Tamea, right? You can burn it as fuel, but it mustn't burn on Yom Tov. Like we said with kodshim, you can't burn the kodshim on Yom Tov. Yeah. But I think it can be itron. You don't use the waste of the pitch. Covered a Shabbos. Because since it's got a bad smell, if you're light, you'll leave the candle, you'll go to another room. It goes in, where's that, walnut oil of some kind, shemen radish oil, shemen dogim, fish oil, shemen paku ice. Paku ice is made from a pumpkin, a wild desert pumpkin. Be'itron uveneft. Itron is your pitch waste and paraffin. Or naphtha. You should only use olive oil. Now all the other things mentioned in the Mishnah, earlier Mishnah, you shouldn't use. Madlikin, you can light them on Yom Tov. Rabbi Shmuel said, you shouldn't use the pitch waste, the pitch part of it. Covered a Shabbos, because it's got a bad smell, you'll leave the room and go elsewhere. What's the difference between the fish and the itron? Kivei dogim has a bad smell, so why are you only forbidding itron and not fish in as a fish? So he says, Kivei dogim, when they're burning, they don't have a bad smell. When it goes out, kavu, then Rechama got a bad smell. So we're not bothered. When it goes out, it goes out. Itron, ben kava ben dalek, whether it's out or burning, Rechama got a bad smell. So therefore he passes itron, but not Kivei dogim. Now, you shouldn't use itron because of covered Shabbos. Now, why with itron is we give a reason, and the other psulim, we don't really give a reason. So the reason is because you might have made a mistake. Got a bad smell, maybe you have to distance 4 amas, so you can say Dvarim Shebekdusha. And maybe he forbids it because you can't say a brach on it. And from Gain Sarach Memeth, he says, no, don't use it because of covered Shabbos. Don't leave the ner and go and eat in a dark place, because mashma, that as far as a bracha, you don't have to. It's not a bracha problem. That's not the reason why you have to distance. The problem is we don't want you going into another room. They allow he got up. He said, what the people of Babel got to do? They only have sesame oil. You're saying you must use olive oil, and what are they going to do? Everyone else. They only have one oil. Alexandria, radish oil. What are they going to do? That's so they're not going to light their Shabbos. And you can only forbid what the elders, the original elders, what they forbid, and nothing else. Right? Those ones mentioned in the Mishnah, and not the others. Any wick that's made from Malach Gimel, yeah, anything that's coming from the tree, we do not light on Erev Shabbos because the fire doesn't burn well on these wicks. Ela Pishtan, except linen, right? The wick.
Pishtan was flax.
Well, flax is linen, yeah. Because the wick is made, it does burn well. Anything coming from a tree which you made a tent, it's not got a din of tumas oil if there's a dead body underneath. Ela Pishtan, except flax. A wick made from a garment, shekipla. Now this is you sort of twined it like they do with wicks. But v'lo hivava, you didn't sort of push it into the fire so it should burn well. He says it's fitting to receive tumah because the twining itself does not remove the name of a garment. So it's still a garment. You cannot use it for Erev Shabbos. He says tahira. No, it can't receive tumah anymore. You've removed it from its garment status. And you can light Erev Shabbos with it. It says with lighting the menorah, you should light the menorah with a wick which will go upwards. Yeah, the shiru leima, they said anything from all that comes from the tree. That the flax is the only thing which will create this nair going upwards, right? So not lechesh and not psida sa'idan. Right. Some say you can make it from canvas and cotton, but they're not coming from the tree. Okay. And now it says anything that comes from a tree you can't use except pishtan, and nothing else has tumas oil except pishtan. So we bring a brisa. Let's see. Tani with Shimon Lazaima. Anything comes from a tree. So even if you make a garment which is 3 finger breadths by finger breadths, which is the smallest size of a garment, it doesn't receive tumah as beged, and therefore Masechet, but you can use it for schach, because one of the laws of schach is kasher. It doesn't receive tumah. Except for the flax, right, which has got a shear by three atzbais, it receives tumah as a garment, and you can't use it. Now also, we said, so it doesn't receive tumah if it's 3 by 3 finger breadth, and it does receive tumah if it's 3 by 3 tfachim. And other garments of flax, we find the others that don't receive tumah by 3 by 3 finger breadths, and they're tumah only 3 by 3 tfachim.
Okay. I know they make garments now out of bamboo.
Yeah. You
take bamboo cloth and use it as schach.
But once you make a garment out of it, then it's a garment. But yeah, you get bamboo mats. I mean, but once it's turned into a garment, it receives tumah. Rabbi Yaisi, according to Rabbi Yaisi, now according to Shimon Laza, that the other things receive tumah if they have a shear by 3 tfachim. Also, so we treat anything coming out of the tree, apart from pishon, ka'avim arakim, like garments from flax, which are thicker or thinner. The taninan we've learned in Kedim, ha'avim v'harakim, where the thick ones or the thin ones, aimem mishum shalosh shalosh. They do not have a din of tumah of 3 by 3 fingers. It's not fitting for anything. It doesn't receive tumah unless it's 3 by 3 tfachim. Now the source that anything that comes from a tree does not have tumas oilim. Which way around is it? Anything that comes from a tree, only pishtan has tumas oil. We learn tumas oil from the Mishkan. It says you'll sprinkle on the oil, right? And the covering the Mishkan, but yifros is oil on the Mishkan. There's exer shav of the word oil, just like the covering of the Mishkan. Anything coming out of a tree only is called oil. So with tumas oilim, anything coming from a tree is only pishtan is called oil. Now, where do you see in the Mishkan that it was pishtan? You'll see which covering of the Mishkan are we talking about. It's Mishkan Tasa Esi Yiriyas Sheish Mazda. Sheish is flax. Uksiv, he says with the clothes of the Kohenim, Parei Migbayis Pishtim, you are Rosham. So the various Shabbos here. So the Gemara says, how do we learn from the pasuk in Yecheskel that sheish is linen or flax? So with the hat of the Kohenim, it says Parei Migbayis Sheish. So Adlamed, so we learn the word sheish mentioned with covering the Mishkan is flax. How do you know? Min sheish, from the word sheish mentioned with the hats of the Kohenim. And the word sheish with the hats of the Kohenim is learned from Parei, which is also written in that pasuk. And the word Parei in that pasuk we learn from another word Parei in Yecheskel, where there it clearly says Pare Pishtim. So we know it's flax. So the Sheish mentioned with covering the Mishkan, and Vesa Mishkan translation of Sheish Mazah means flax. So we learn it through other places, through different words in the same pasuk, all the way back to Yechezkel. Now, covering the Mishkan, we see what's called ayel, the Tumas Ayelim, and skins of Behemoth Torah, they can also be Tumas Ayelim, because one of the covers of the Mishkan was made from rams, right? The red dyed rams. Can you use the ayel from a non-kosher animal, which has Tumas Ayelim? It says Varos Tachashim. Now, 1 minute. Now, the Tachash, they use them in the covering for the Mishkan. Now, surely that's a Tamei animal. It's not in the kosher animals that were mentioned in the Torah. So it's Pasha, you can use skin of a behemoth Tameah. So the truth is, there's an argument. Was it a Tamei animal or not? Rabbi Yehuda, he said Tainun. It was a min Tamei animal called Tainun. The Shem Sivai. Because of its color Techeles, of its skin. Nikra was called that. He says Galaktinun. Rabbanan Amra is a Tamei animal called Galaktinun. Rabbanan Amra, they said Min Chayetza. No, it was a kosher animal. Or Gedela Bamidbar, it grew in the Midbar, and we don't have to mention it. But Asya, if it's in Kadama, Rabbi Losman, Rabbi Yisir Babav, Shem Shlokish, Shem Ramer, Kimin Chayetza, Barak Kadosh Baruch LaMoshe Bamidbar. That's a Tahir animal Hashem created in the Midbar. It was just there. It was one-off use, right? Just for the Mishkan, that was all it was there for. Rabbi Alvanama, he says Keresh Hashma. It was called Keresh. We had one horn. As it says in the Pasuk, so Makrin is like one horn. Makran, Mikeren, Kasam Rachmana. So the Gemara says, how we see the word Makrin? Mikeren. The Torah writes Mikeren without Yud. You can read it Mikeren instead of Makrin to tell you that one Keren.
So it had one kosher.
Huh?
You're going to call this kosher?
According to this. Yeah, Makran Kasim. There are other Pirushim. Some say, my tefillah should be accepted before you more than the shah, the ox that Adam Arishan offered, and more than Makran Mafris from the Techashim that were used in the Mishkan who had one horn. So just the Techashim in the Midbar, the Pasuk says they had one horn. But not the Shah, not the ox of Adam Arishan. Okay. Now, Rabbi Akiva arguing is a wick of a garment that you've twined it, as it were, but you haven't singed it. Can it receive Tumah still as a garment? According to Rabbi it can still receive Tumah. According to Rabbi Akiva, it cannot receive Tumah. So we're comparing their argument to another argument similar with Caleb. Taman Tanina, we've learned in Caleb, any garment which is less than 3 by 3 tvachim, shehiskinu, but you've now set it aside for another purpose. For example, to block that hole in the pipe of the bathhouse where the water's rushing out. Or to stir the pot. Or to clean the mill from all the dust. Whether you've prepared it or not, Tame, it can still receive Tumah. That's Rebbe Lezer's view. He said, whether it's prepared or not, Tahar, it can't receive Tumah. Rebbe says, if you prepared it for use, it's Tameh. But if not, then Tahar. What does that mean? Whether you prepared it, you left it in your house, it means you throw it in the dump. In both cases, Ruleza holds it still receives Tumah. But that can't be, because Vartanan, we've learned elsewhere, a garment which is 3 by 3 finger breadths, you throw in the dump, is Tahar. It can't receive Tumah. You've removed the beggar status, apart from our garment like purple wool and so on, or other colours. Rabbi Lezer, he said, I've madlis chadasha, a piece of material, kiyezman. He's got the same thing as our garment. By throwing it in the dump, it's very expensive. You don't give up on it, right? You haven't removed the beggar status. Now, let's banash amar af. Now, never say add also this, unless you do agree, you must agree to what was said before. Afilu, you don't say af, or afilu, ela ade maida al kan maisa, unless you agree on what you've heard before, right? Therefore, since Rabbi Lezer agrees for Tanakama with an old material, throwing in the dump removes the beggar status, so don't start learning Rabbi Lezer with a garment that you use for the bathhouse, Ben Edom and Amocha means you throw it in the dump and then no, because really it's still fitting to receive Tumah. Yeah, don't learn that when Rabbi Eliezer said Edom and Amocha, it can receive Tumah, maybe you throw it in the dump. Because no, basically the Gemara explains differently. What does the Mishnah mean, Mochan and Edom and Amocha? Ella, he says, what does it mean prepared, not prepared? Bain, whether you use it in the bathhouse, Hechina Litzlaisa, you prepared it to use like a garment on a patch on a garment. Bain Shelo Hechina, you did not prepare it Litzlaisa to put it as a patch on a garment. According to Rabbi Eliezer, in both cases, it's still a garment. It can receive Tumah. According to Rabbi Yeshua, getting it for the bathhouse, you've removed the garment status. And Rabbi Akiva says it depends. If you prepared it clearly to be a patch, then it remains fitting to receive Tumah after you decide to use it in the bathhouse. But if you don't prepare it at the beginning for the sake of a patch, then you have removed the garment status after you're thinking about using it for some other usage. Now, after the Gemara explains the argument of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva in Caleb, and it compares the argument there to the argument in our Mishnah about the garment that you've twined but not singed. So the explanation in Caleb we learn from Masechet Shabbos Vahi, and Shabbos Yafa min Ado we learn from Caleb. So Ado Yafa min Ahi. The Pirish in Caleb we learn from Shabbos. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer v'hu shekipla. Rabbi Eliezer view, if you prepare it to use in the bathhouse, it's still a garment. So even if you sort of twine the garment a bit for this purpose, to be a wick, you've not yet removed the garment status. And the Pshat in Shabbos we learn from Caleb. Rabbi Akiva who said, you twine it a bit, it's still tahar. That's only you didn't intend from the beginning to use it as a patch on a garment. If your intention was from the beginning to put it on a garment, even though later you sort of twine it a bit to make a wick, to me'ahi, it is still tameh, you've not removed the beggar status. Now, after we spoke about machlokes from Lezer and Akiva, if making sinas ha-beged without singeing it receives tumah or not, we come to another argument in our Mishnah. Can you light Ner Shabbos with it? But Ma'atzah Rabbi Eliezer who forbids you. Why is it forbidden to use for Ner Shabbos a wick, which you will kipla v'lehiv? By you lighting it, you're removing the Kabbalah's tumah. It can't receive tumah anymore. So you're like purifying it. You're being mataya keli. You can't do that on Shabbos. Now, why could Rabbi Eliezer kippul does not help to make it tar? The kivin shekipla. Now wait a minute. Once you've twined it a bit for a wick, laitara, have you not removed the tumah status? Why does the beggar garment not go away? The beggar status. So the Gemara says, there are many workers in the house. They make pieces of material. They should be used for wicks when they need them, but sometimes they change their mind and use it for patches on a garment. So the fact that you make it into a wick, that's not enough of a meiser to remove the garment status. Now, the reason of Rabbi Eliezer that you cannot use Ner Shabbos with a wick which has not been singed, because you're like being Mataya Kalim on Shabbos. But surely that happens before Shabbos. You don't light it on Shabbos, you light it before. We're talking about a case in our Mishnah where there's Yom Tov which fell on a Friday, that you're Malik and Yom Tov a wick which has never been singed for Ner Shabbos, and you're Mataya Kalim on Yom Tov, right? You're lighting on Yom Tov afternoon. But surely it becomes tahor in its own right when it burns well, not at the time of lighting. It will happen soon. Why are you being matay kelim on Yom Tov? It happens on its own. To explain the Mishnah to my case, you had in the garment 3 by 3 finger breadths. Some is exact. As soon as you light it, it gets smaller than the size to receive tumah. Yeah, because it's exactly the right size. As soon as you light it, it burns, that's it. And therefore you're Matai Kalim and Yom Tov. Now you don't have to say we just took about exactly that right size of 3 by 3 in spice. Rabbi Achor of Simon Nazira said it could be even a bigger shear. Rabbi Eliezer would forbid it. Because we make it also mazo. Let's say you make a garment as a bandage, tahira. It's tahir because it's not really going to be used for anything else. Shiraya, if you dipped the wick, the shemen in oil to light it, like a misha asa mazar, surely, again, it makes it repulsive. So even if we're talking about a wick which is bigger than 3 by 3 finger breadths, once you put it in the oil, it should be tar, and therefore you're being Matay Kelim and Yom Tov. Now the Gemara comes back to an argument in Kelim. A garment less than 3 by 3 tefachim, you use it to block up the bathhouse. So what's the halacha in this? From Zero of Yanav of Yemi of Shem Levi, near in Devarim, it's right that the machlokes in Kelim te halacha kurba kiva. Like him, he says a bit of both opinions. He's a sort of middle ground opinion. He's machriya. And the klal is whenever you find two Tanoim arguing and there's another Tanu who's halfway, the halacha is like the one halfway. The truth is, halacha is Eino kurba kiva. Eino can be sure. No, the halacha is most lenient. There's a leniency 3 by 3 finger breadths. A garment which has got exactly 3 by 3 finger breadths has got no chashivas, and we're lenient that any action you do, the tumah goes away. Now the Gemara says the view of Rabbi Kiva in our Mishnah that you can light near Shabbos if it's been kippala, you've twined it but you've not singed it. The heter Rabbi Kiva to light is not because it's tahor, it's not fitting to receive tumah, and he holds I feel it tameh. Even if it was fitting to receive tumah, you can still light with it. Because he argues on the main svara of Rabbi Elazar, who holds always you're being Mataya Keli on Yom Tov. Now, the Gemara brings us supports this explanation to view of Rabbi Kiva. Begin Rav, because of the words of Rav, we know that that's the view of Rabbi Kiva. The Rav Amasikin B'Kelim, Rav says you can burn on Yom Tov Kelim, complete Kelim, Ein Masikin B'Shivrei Kelim. You cannot use as fuel Kelim that break on Yom Tov, because you are muksa them. You never thought you were going to start using it as fuel when Yom Tov came in as proper Kelim. And Rav allows you to burn whole Kelim on Yom Tov, even though you're being matayah them from their tumah, and therefore this das is based on the view of Rabbi Akiva. Okay, Rabbi, say we stop there.